Okay, here we go. Having made a personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude. It's saying step 2 right there. I need this new attitude. Step 2 is exactly what we're talking about. A new relationship with our Creator. Step 3. I'm trying to get this new relationship with God and try to turn my life and my will over to Him. That's what that means. And to discover the obstacles in our path. The obstacles that block me off from my God that's inside of me is what we start looking at in step 4. We had admitted certain defects, and we have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. That's really important. I'm only ascertaining in a rough way what the trouble is. You know, way back in the beginning of 4, it says we considered its common manifestations of self. Here they are. Resentments, sex conduct, and fears. These are the common ones. And then at step 5, we ascertain in a rough way what the trouble is. So that sounds like it's pretty surfacey. This is just a big dump. You got to stay sober to get to the meat and potatoes of this shit. And as you get into the meat and potatoes and you go through that pain of the change, you start feeling major relief. You start getting a real connection with God. And it's pretty cool. So we have put a finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. I like that line. It says the exact nature of our defects. And nature is an important word in that line, because nature means origin. Where does it start? Where is it coming from? That's what the third column on your resentments talks about. And that's what your sex conduct starts revealing. The exact nature. It's probably emotional security, companionship, sex relation. It's gonna start getting down to the root. And that's why the 5 with a sponsor, hopefully with somebody who's good at this, can really fucking help you dig in. And even if you're not good at this, and I don't want to deter you from doing this, if you're a sponsor and you really want to help people, you really want to grow in understanding effectiveness, don't cut yourself short and say, no, I ain't going to do this because I'm not good at it. You know what? You bring God in and you pray and you ask for strength and courage to do what He wants you to do in that process. And you just try to do your very, very best. And whatever you can pull from my big book study to be helpful in your process, then that's what you do. Because our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. But you're not going to grow in understanding and effectiveness without experiencing the experience. Because that's so important, is to get the experience. Like, yeah, I sound like I know what I'm doing and talking about, but that came through a lot of times when I didn't know what I was doing or talking about. But I just kept doing it because I knew it was God's will. And I learned. And then I would talk with pillars and sponsors and other people about how to do this. And the more that I talked with God-centered 12-step people, they helped me. So there's hundreds of speaker tapes. There's hundreds of people, thousands of people to lean on. And there's no reason why we can't be spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation and learn and be able to be helpful. But so don't let your pride and your fear hold you back from being helpful. And if you study any of the world's religions or whatever you want to call them, they all tell you to do the same thing. If you want to find joy and happiness, you serve other people. That's the key to this whole thing that we call life. But we confuse it with what society tells us. So, it takes a while to get to that point. But I think when you get there, you're just like, holy fuck. I never thought that life could be like this. I didn't even think that I was supposed to be doing this. That's why the book says common sense thus becomes uncommon sense. That's why this line in Bill's story, Never was I to pray for myself, except as my requests bore on my usefulness to others. Then, only then, might I expect to receive, and that would be in great measure. I wonder what that great measure is as I donate my life to service. You can't comprehend that, because it's paid in great measure, and it's uncomprehendable because it comes from the inside. And then as you get to that place, then you know that nothing else matters. And then as you live that life where nothing else matters, it's funny how the rest of the world starts working around you and giving you shit that you always wanted. Common sense thus becomes uncommon sense. So the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery, mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. That's a truth. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to either easier, softer methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and their fear. They only thought they have humbled themselves. They had not learned enough about humility, fearlessness, and honesty, in the sense we find it necessary, until they told someone else all their life story. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things that he does on his sprees. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back. So that first paragraph I just read there, most people, more than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. It's not even talking about drinking there. It's talking about me just living my life. And it says more than most people. So it's saying that a lot of other people do this too. We're talking about the world of the material, what they call the real world out there. Is that actually the real world? It's telling me that most people are actors. Where's the fucking real world? The real world is right here. This is where we get honest. This is where we're able to talk vulnerably. This is where we're able to tell our truth. And be able to cry and shed tears and say stuff that would be totally humiliating, and understanding that we all get it. This is the real world right here. We don't need to act, but we do. So we just got to try to align ourselves so we're not actors anymore. That's why my job and your guys' jobs as you become sponsors is to help people find their truth, their true self. So you never have to justify, and you can just live your life with no boundaries, because your boundaries are set by true self. So I like that. It doesn't even mention alcohol or drinking or drugs. But here we go. The inconsistency is made worse by the things that he does on his sprees. Fuck, no. Combining and coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think that someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Fuck, does that ever sound like a truth, hey? Holy shit. Imagine doing this shit not drinking, though. You do this enough not drinking, you're drinking. Which is why God's so important, because we can stop drinking and still do some of this shit. And if we keep missing the mark, we'll have to drink, because we're not living with God. We're just fucking butchering it, and we have to drink. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance of recovery. So, I just want to talk to you about this. So I do lots of step 5s. And I think probably the biggest thing, the number one biggest thing that I see why people have to drink is because they're not listening to their truth. And if you don't listen to the truth, so we talked about it in the We Agnostics. Every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And it's love. And it's that God guidance system. And if I listen to that GPS, God's pointer system, God will point me in the right direction and tell me what to do in any given circumstance if I'm in touch with it. And because I'm so insecure and I will keep selling out myself for happiness from outside of me, I'm not listening to myself. And if I keep lying to myself, I have to drink. Because I'm creating so much inner turmoil within my God guidance system, I have to drink because I'm lying to myself. And if you keep lying to yourself, you have to drink because you need to blot out the consciousness of your intolerable situation. And the only thing that's ever done that properly is drugs and alcohol. But eventually drugs and alcohol aren't a solution anymore because they're just as much of a problem. So then you're in the jumping off point. You can't live without it, and you can't live with it. You can't live with yourself without it. And it just becomes like, what the fuck do I do? Which is why so many people commit suicide. Because they can't handle anything. But the number one thing that I see is people aren't true to themselves. They've never gotten in touch with their truth, and they've always had to go against their truth, and they've had to drink. I don't know how many times I've said to the person on the couch going, dude, of course you drank. You had to. You've never been truthful with yourself. And then they sit there and they look at me and they're like, yeah, I get it. And then so we try to work on that. You know, like lots of people are people pleasers. They'll just say yes even though they mean no. And they're going to tell you a whole bunch of shit even though it goes against what they truly feel. Why? Because they have an issue with validation. Right? Or then other people will be so demanding and try to grab and take from you even though they know it's wrong and they're missing the mark too. So no matter how you miss the mark, if you miss the mark too much, then you have to drink. But when you don't miss the mark, and that's what this program teaches you how to grasp and develop a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. Rigorous honesty within myself. And if I can get rigorous honest with you first, because I'm not capable of it on my own, I got to learn how to do that with you and my sponsor. And then I'm able to start learning how to do it with myself. But then I keep doing it with my sponsor and I develop it. It's developing and grasping a manner of living. That's why inventories are important. That's why the step 10 is so important. That's why everything in this program is important. That's why praying for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out is important. That's why everything becomes intertwined and so important. Because it helps you hit the mark. We need to try to hit the mark. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder why many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance of recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to religious denomination which requires confession must and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority, whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot or would not rather do this, we search out our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps a doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is that we must be hard on ourselves. Fucking love that line. The rule is that we must be hard on ourselves. I don't know how many times I've heard in the meeting, I got to look at the good things about myself in the step 4 too. No, you don't. It doesn't say we look for all the fucking good shit. It says we look and we're hard on ourselves. This is a personal inventory about where the flaws that is causing failure in my life. Me as the sponsor, I can balance that shit out. But this is about being hard on ourselves. So if you want to go into a self-pity place, then that's up to you. But it's ridiculous when I hear that in a meeting because it doesn't say that in the book. It doesn't say that at all. It does say in step 10 that I can take a deficit and turn it into an asset. But that's when I'm willing to start to change. I need to be fucking hard on myself in step 4 and 5. Because I need to be humbled properly so that step 6 has maximum effect if I want to change. And if I don't have it take maximum effect, I'm not going to probably change. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a step 6 and 7 guy in this program. Because these are the steps that changed my life. But the thing is most people in both programs don't even understand the impact that these 2 steps are actually supposed to have. Which is why, in my opinion, the success rates of people recovering is very low. Because we don't have anyone. And if you look for step 6 speaker tapes online, you're not going to find them. You're not going to find step 6 and 7 speaker shit anywhere. They're going to talk quickly about 6 and 7. That's it. Because that's all there is in the book. And I don't know why no one does this. But this is the focal point of me for the whole program. This is the backbone of this program. So I'm going to be doing heavy step 6. We're on step 6 next week. I do 4 hours of step 6. 2 hours next Friday. 2 hours on Sunday. All on step 6. Because it's the most important step. 7 is the most important, but you got to learn through the 6 first. And if you're living in 7, you're doing this whole program. You're surrendered to God, blah, blah, blah. But, step 6 and 7, man. That's the fucking bomb steps. And I'll be doing workshops and putting those on my YouTube channel. I'll be doing step 10 workshops. And all of this shit is actually means step 3. It's all in the respect of turning my will and my life over to the care of God. Because it happens in these other steps. So the rule is that we're hard on ourselves. But always considerate of other people. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with somebody. It may be one who is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that's so, the step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have written an inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. Boom, long talk. We explain to our, it's not a long confession, it's a long talk. Long one. We explain to our partner what we're about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Fucking love that. Because this is life and death. It's life and death disease. We forget about that though. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. Here we go. Boom. We pocket our pride and we go to it. Illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken the step, withholding fucking nothing. We are delighted. So when I do a step 5 with somebody and I finally get to the end, and this is a process of trust, I do the first 3 steps. We get into step 4 and we start doing the 5. It's not by mistake that the sex conduct is last. Because that is the most vulnerable part of this. And I have built trust all the way through this by sharing my own experience with you in all of the same areas. And then as we start resentments, then we go into fears. 3rd is sex conduct. Why? Because that's the most vulnerable. And I've hopefully built trust with my sponsee by this time that they're willing to share with me, withholding nothing back. And then as we're done, we finally get to the end of this, I say to them, okay, is there anything left that you're not telling me that you're holding back? Like anything. And then I might even mention some things, you know. And then I always qualify it and I say, if there's anything that comes up tomorrow, then I need you to call me. And anything this week, after we're done today, if something comes up, I need you to bring it to me and let's talk about it. Why? Because sometimes your typical alcoholic will not want to divulge everything. But if you lay it on the line like that and you let them know, you know, if it comes up, I need you to talk to me. Because your life is on the line. The last step 5 I did, the guy called me back and said, I got 5 things that I didn't bring forward to you the other night. And they were really, really important. They were so important that they sparked a whole nother step 5 with a really good friend of mine. And I passed them on to a friend of mine to do another 5. Why? How much time did me and my friend spend on this one individual? 26, 27 hours of step 5 time. Why? Because his life is important. That's what we do around here. So, if I do that, here we go. Here's the step 5 promises. We are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears will fall from us and we will begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. That only happens in step 5 promises. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. There's your promises for step 5. You start to feel like you're walking hand in hand with your Creator. If you were only able to look at the floor and it was hard to look people in the eyes, you will now be able to maybe look them in the eyes. You will feel at ease, at perfect peace and ease with yourself and with your fellows. This is the first step or the last step in my past. My past is now my past. I don't have to live in it anymore. And now I get to move on. And as I look at my 4 and my 5 and go, holy fuck, I'm not who I thought I was. I sure don't look like everything that I learned about me, but I'm looking at the truth. And the nice part is you don't have to stay that way. Because if you stay that person, you will drink again. This is why a personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism is so important. Because if you don't change, you will always go back to your old solution. Because you're running your life still on old ideas, emotions, and attitudes that have been guiding forces in the lives of these men. And we just saw it all in the 4 and the 5. There's your ideas, emotions, and attitudes. You think you can treat people this way. You think you can do that. You think you can do that. You need relief. If you keep running that way, then you're going to always get the same result. You're going to need to drink, put drugs in your body because you can't handle it because you're missing the mark. The best part about step 5 is it's in the past and I can change. And I can become the best version of me ever. Now I start that journey on step 6. And then I implement the change. Willingness, honesty, repeatedly, without reservation, working on these things at a high level. And I'll put major emphasis on that next week when we start step 6. So, I'll just finish with this. So this is part of the step 6. So we return home. Here's some clear-cut directions. As soon as you're done with your sponsor, he's going to give you these directions. We talk about directions. Here's some more directions. So you return home. You find a place where you can be quiet for an hour. An hour. Doesn't say 10 minutes. It says an hour. And we carefully review what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. That's a direction. So you thank God from the bottom of your heart that you know Him better. Even though you might not feel like you know Him better, you might even feel a little disconcerted because you feel fucked up because you just ripped a wound off of your arm. You feel vulnerable. You might not feel the best, but you follow these directions anyway. You don't go into self-pity. You don't go into fear. You just try to follow these directions. It's not a matter of how you feel. It's what you're doing. Here it is what you do. So we thank God from the bottom of our hearts that we know Him better. Taking this book down from the shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, page 59. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals or steps. We ask if we have admitted anything in step 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And really talk to yourself on the inside and ask it, have I admitted anything? Why? Because I'm building an arch through which I will walk a free man. That is that archway that I pass through to freedom that we learned about in step 3. That will change my life. And I need this work to be solid. Walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Question mark. Ask yourself, is that work solid so far that I did in the first 5 steps? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If you can answer to your satisfaction, then we look at step 6. So I'm just going to read this. So if we can say, yeah, I'm good with all that stuff I've done, then I look at step 6. If I'm not good with it, then I talk to my sponsor. Maybe I'm holding something back. Maybe I lied or whatever. And if I am in that place, then I talk to my sponsor and I deal with it right now. But if I can answer to my satisfaction, I'm good to go, then we look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things that we admitted are objectionable? I just found all those things out in step 5. I know what they are. Am I willing to let some of those behaviors go? Am I willing to let some of these mental and emotional blackmail tactics that I use on other people go? Can He now take them all, every one? And I asked my sponsees to answer these question marks. If we still cling to something, this is a prayer. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing.